shaky. To deliberately go after a bear is a big deal for me. I protected camp so my little grandchildren could still come visit and see me. I was proud of myself for doing it and getting over my fears, especially since he was getting closer. For years, Sue Aikens' survival skills at Kavok River Camp have captivated watchers. She is the tough star of Life Below Zero. Fans have been asking what happened to Sue since there were rumors that she had gone missing. Sue has been through terrible things that have tested her physically and emotionally, from the heartbreaking death of loved ones to being the topic of false death rumors. So, come with us as we find out what really happened to Sue Aikens. Imagine living in a place that is so far away from everything else that the nearest city is 500 m away and the nearest road is 80 m away. That's about as far away as it gets. Right now, when you add in sub-zero temps in a remote area where grizzly bears live, it's clear that only Sue Aikens could live at Kavok River Camp. Sue has had to deal with a lot of problems on Life Below Zero, but the bear attack at her remote camp in 2007 was the scariest. Reports say that Sue had seen the bear before, when it was burying caribou bodies near her house. Many people would have packed up, but Sue knew what that meant because she had lived with animals since the show. The bear was likely to come back, which wasn't a problem, but the spot it picked was too close to her airstrip. She also knew she had to move the body to keep from being attacked. At that point in time, that piece of land was the only flat area where aircraft could land. Sue had no choice but to deal with the issue. Like any experienced Alaskan, Sue took her gun with her when she left her house that terrible day. But she needed both hands to run the pump that took water from the river. She had to put down her gun. Everything changed in that one moment of weakness. The bear had been hiding nearby, but all of a sudden it jumped out of the water and charged her. Attack came on quickly and was very violent. She wasn't able to move because the bear hit her hard. Sue made a quick choice at that moment that probably saved her life. She did not move or fight back, and she tried to look like she was not a threat. It may seem silly for grizzly bears to do this, but they are often more interested in showing who is boss than in eating. Sue probably knew this and did what she needed to do. It hurt her badly when the bear pushed her around and bit her in the head. Her hips were also out of place. Sue knew the bear would leave in the end, but it already knew where her cabin was. Because the bear had a good sense of smell and she was hurt, she knew she had to stay safe. Thanks to her strength, she was able to shoot it before her hips gave out. The bear finally moved away after some time, leaving Sue bleeding in the snow. Many people would have freaked out in this situation, but Sue didn't. She did the best she could to fix herself by sewing up her cuts and lowering her risk of getting an infection. After that, she ran as fast as she could back to her cabin. Back at her cabin, Sue tried to call for help from nearby pilots and even state cops, but they had a hard time getting in touch with her because she was so far away. Before she was saved and flown to the hospital, she had been hurt for more than a week and had to deal with her pain alone in terrible conditions. At the hospital, her hips were straightened and the cuts on her head were treated. So began the long process of getting better. Later, she talked about how she could still feel the bear's teeth on her head, which reminded her of how close she was to dying. When you live alone in a very remote part of the world, you face daily fears of death. Sue didn't try to hide that fact, though. In fact, she once said that you should be okay with dying if you want to live the way she does. That way of thinking is what keeps her going after going through something most people would never imagine. Sue did not let the attack change the way she lived, even though it was a terrible event. Sue has taken extra steps to protect herself since the attack and is always ready for any possible threat. Because Sue has been on the show for over 13 years, she has been in a lot of dangerous situations. She has been attacked by a bear and has been through the worst weather Alaska has to offer. But those risks came from the wild. Another kind of threat, on the other hand, came from the internet. False reports of death. Sue has been the target of several scams over the years that said she had died. These false claims have caused fans to be confused, social media to go crazy, and many people to think she really died when she was still alive and well. In early 2023, one of the most recent cases took place. Several news sites said Sue had passed away. The articles didn't say where the death came from or what caused it. Some even used names that were meant to get people to click on them. The time, on the other hand, made things worse. At that time, a Pennsylvania woman named Susan Aikens died. On a Reddit group for fans of the show, someone said that hearing about Susan's death gave them a heart attack. Many fans thought it was the TV star, even though the woman had nothing to do with the show because their names were so identical. Sue didn't make a public comment about the rumors, but her regular online activities confirmed that she was still alive and well. She was still posting photos and updates from Kavik River Camp on Instagram and Facebook, and she wasn't taking any breaks from them. Yukon. That was enough proof for many fans to believe the rumors were not true. But that wasn't the first time they said Sue had died when she hadn't. Similar reports have been going around in the past, usually about her health or the fact that she wasn't in any new episodes of Life Below Zero. Fans and the media started to wonder about Sue's health whenever she took time off or showed up on the show less often. It's mostly because Sue lives in a very private and faraway place that the stories spread. She is hundreds of miles from the next hospital or news station. She also doesn't post information very often. Sometimes that lack of speech makes room for stories to spread. The internet makes it easy for false information to spread quickly, which is another reason why these stories spread so quickly. Someone can copy and paste a story into dozens of blog posts once it spreads on any social media site. Most people believe the story when it's about a famous TV figure who lives alone. Sue is more likely to believe these false death stories because of the way she lives, the injuries she has had in the past, and the fact that she doesn't go out in public very often. People remember the bear attack she had and the time she said she was okay with dying alone in the wild. Sue Aikens is still living despite what people say. She keeps running Kavik River Camp and focuses on her land, her camp, and her way of life, which are the things that are most important to her. Sue had another tragedy in 2017. Besides the rumors that she was dead, she was hurt in a stunt that the show's makers made her do. Several news sources say that Sue Aikens sued the makers of Life Below Zero after the event. In the lawsuit, she said that the producers made her do things that were not only fake but also dangerous. In her court case, she named the BBC, 3 of its subsidiaries, and one of the show's creators as defendants. This happens all the time in the entertainment business. Also, Sue had signed a contract with the show's producers before the incident that said she couldn't refuse to work or push back the shooting schedule. The agreement let the production team decide how to film scenes. Sue said that this agreement didn't protect her even when her life was in danger. The case is about an episode from season 5 called The Crash. From April to June 2015, the season aired, and that show was filmed in June of that year. Sue picked a place she knew well for the camping scene because it was planned. Reports say that the producer insisted that the crew move to a different spot along the river that was farther away. He said it would be better video. The claim says that the producer made Sue travel by snow machine and sled, even though she would have preferred the Argo ATV because it would have been better for the icy ground. Sue told him she was worried about how safe this plan was, but she says he wouldn't listen. Besides that, she said the director told her to leave her older dog at the camp. This made Sue mad because she had agreed to be in a documentary, not a show with rules that told her what to do and how to act. As the filming went on, Sue offered a different plan. She suggested that she leave her tent and sled behind and look for Petter Megan. She needed meat and feathers, so this would have been a real and useful job. He said no to her idea again though, and told her to ride along the river and go into what's called overflow. Just to be clear, an overflow is a spot where water runs over the ice and makes it weaker. Sue spoke up again, this time saying that the ice was thin and the snow machine could break through it. The situation got worse as the producer got fed up with Sue's refusal to cooperate. He reportedly yelled at Sue and the safety crew, telling them they had to do what he said since they worked for him and not Sue. He even told Sue she had to take off her helmet so that the camera could see her face. Sue had to take credit for a risky plan to ride across the overflow fast enough to avoid falling through the ice at one point. She kept fighting back, but the argument went on for a long time. In the end, Sue reluctantly did what he asked, because that's what the directors told her to do. She hit an ice ridge and fell off her snow machine. She remembers the terrible sound of her bones snapping when she hit the ground hard. Crew members had to take off most of her winter gear when they tried to help her, which made things even worse because she was out in the cold. Besides this, the director also made another choice that caused a lot of worry. He told the pilot to stop at the very end of the mile-long runway when the team got back to camp. The suit says that the reason was to film Sue as she limped and hurt her way to the plane. At the same time that she needed medical help right away, he wanted dramatic video of her pain. Even though Sue got medical help in the end, the damage had already been done. In the court papers, Sue's lawyers didn't say what injuries Sue had, but they did say that she had multiple surgeries. She is now in constant pain in her arms, legs, and back. Because of these accidents, it's hard for her to keep up with her normal life in Alaska. When Sue sued, she said that the team broke their contract by putting her in danger while they were shooting. She also said they got in the way of her personal business at Kavik River Camp and made her feel bad for a long time. Her lawyers asked for a trial by a jury and asked for specific damages for her mental and physical pain. BBC didn't say anything about the case in public while the case was going back and forth in court. A spokesperson for the company said that they had not yet gotten the lawsuit and would not be able to respond. There was no public announcement of how the case ended, but it's likely that it was settled outside of court and Sue will be back in season 6. Fans all over the world love Sue, and not just because she can survive. They also love her because she is honest and open. But the sad death of Sue's beloved niece Drew McClure was one of the hardest things she has had to deal with. Sue and Drew were very close. Drew was only 19 years old when Sue died. Sue was greatly affected by the death, and in an episode of Life Below Zero she talked about how she felt. To people who have watched Sue's story on the show, seeing her break down in front of the camera was shocking. In the show she paid a moving tribute to Drew, and it was clear how much the loss hurt her. Sue has always said that her family is very important to her. Even though she lives alone in Alaska, her family has always come first. On social media she often shared touching moments with Drew and talked about how much she loved her granddaughter. Sue wrote a happy birthday message for Drew on Instagram on her 18th birthday. Sue wrote in the post about how happy Drew had made her life. She also said that Drew's presence had made her heart happy every day, even though she hadn't been able to be there for her birthday. The specifics of Drew's death were kept secret from Sue's audience while she talked about her sadness. The details were kept secret by her choice. After this choice, a lot of fans want to know what happened, but Sue has made it clear that she doesn't want to talk about some things in her life. No one can deny how heartbreaking it is to lose a grandchild. For Sue it was especially hard because she lived alone in the Alaskan wilderness. Because Sue lives in such a remote place, she often faces situations that could kill her. It was already hard enough, but losing a family member so far away made things even worse. Fans told Sue they were there for her on social media after the show played to ease her pain. Her tribute moved a lot of people, and they sent her condolences and let her know they were thinking of her and hoping for her to get better. These words of support were very important to Sue as she dealt with her grief and continued to live alone at her cabin. For Sue, losing Drew was a big emotional blow that has changed her in ways that aren't always clear to the outside world. Sue's terrible tragedy didn't end there though. She also lost her sister Pam in 2022 when she died suddenly. For a while the exact details of Pam's death were kept secret. Later it came out that she died because of problems from a medical condition. Aside from being Sue's family member, Pam had been a part of her life before she died. She was there for Sue when things were tough, giving her mental support and a link to the outside world. This is one of the things that made her loss so terrible. Sue often told Pam that she was the only person who really understood how she lived in the woods. It was always easy for her to talk about her problems with them. Even though Sue was very sad when her sister and niece died, she went through another terrible loss in 2023 when her dog Lil Bob died. Sue told her friends the sad news in an Instagram post. She wrote in the post that Lil Bob was her best dog and best friend. Lil Bob wasn't just a pet. He was Sue's beloved Malamute dog. They were her friends in the wilds of Alaska. Life Below Zero fans got to know and love Lil Bob because he was in a lot of shows and Sue's social media posts. His playful personality and steady presence around the camp gave Sue comfort and company, and they made people feel warm. Fans were moved by his antics and sent their regrets when they heard he had died.
In the comments on Instagram, a lot of fans wrote words of support. That wasn't the end though. Sue had another terrible loss in 2024 when her second dog Spritz died. Spritz had been Sue's loyal friend while she lived alone at Kavik River Camp, just like Lil Bob had been. In a touching post on social media the morning of his death, Sue said that Spritz had peacefully chosen it was time to go to be with Lil Bob. Sue wrote that Spritz died while he was taking a morning nap and that she was very thankful for the years of company he had given her. Sue wrote in her post how grateful she was that Spritz had picked her and her daughter to spend his golden years with. She talked about how Spritz made her life better by being there for her and being a loyal friend who filled her days with love and happiness. Spritz was always a part of Sue's daily life. He went for walks with her and helped her with chores around the camp. Sue kept working and living in her remote camp even though she had lost a lot. Sue is still living on her own as a survivalist even though life below zero is over. She runs her camp, which she has made public for guests.